Well, after leaving the European Union last Friday, the United Kingdom is now in a so-called transition period until the end of the year, as the long-term future relationship with the EU is negotiated. Today, the Prime Minister made his first major speech on Brexit since the general election, and at the same time, Michel Barnier, the lead negotiator for the EU, outlined his position. As our political editor Laura Kuenssberg explains, Boris Johnson insisted there was no need to follow EU rules, but critics say that his plans are unrealistic.
This site stood watch over our fortunes for more than 300 years. Triumphs of the 18th century, captured flamboyantly on the ceiling of the Royal Naval College by the Thames.
This is it. This is the newly forged United Kingdom.
Looking down on the Prime Minister, hoping for his own glory.
We've made a choice. We want a comprehensive free trade agreement similar to Canada's. But in the unlikely event that we do not succeed, then our trade will have to be based on our existing withdrawal agreement with the EU.
That could mean taxes on imports and customs checks, more autonomy for the UK though, and a clear no to being bound by EU rules.
And I dispel the absurd caricature of Britain as a nation bent on the slash and burn of workers' rights and environmental protection, as if we are saved from Dickensian squalor only by enlightened EU regulation, as if it was only thanks to Brussels that we're not preparing to send children back up chimneys.
On a rival platform on the other side of the channel,
we are ready to offer a highly ambitious trade deal. The more we'll have common standards, the higher quality access the EU will be able to offer to its markets. But this will be up to the UK to decide.
In other words, the EU's message to Boris Johnson: the more you want to tack away, the harder it will be to do business.
If it is a choice between no comprehensive deal or sticking to EU rules, you've suggested you would rather have no comprehensive deal. But do you accept that that might have significant costs for jobs, businesses and people's prosperities, as well as the benefits that you claim there might be?
Yeah. When I hear prophecies of doom, I've heard them before. I don't believe in them. This is a fantastically robust, dynamic economy and will continue to be so.
It will be not easy, but obviously it's good for everybody if there is a good deal at the end.
He's got the team to put it together, and I'm optimistic he can do it.
This is about how we do business with the EU and the rest of the world in years to come. The Prime Minister believes for Brexit to be worth it, we have to be able to do things differently. But the EU reckons for access to their markets, we ought to stick closely to their rules, and that's the clash. But in truth, this is the beginning of what will be 11 months of hard bargaining. And as you might expect, at this stage, there's an awful lot of chest beating going on.
The Prime Minister didn't even want to mention the word Brexit today. But you can't avoid the fact, just a few days on, there's plenty of argument over our place in the world that's yet to come. Laura Kuenssberg, BBC News.
With me is our economics editor, Faisal Islam. Let's talk about trade, Faisal. Where are we right now?
So we've left, but just how far we depart depends on this negotiation. Right now, the UK and EU regulations are perfectly aligned. But broadly speaking, as they diverge, we have more of a room to change our rules, regulations, trade deals. But also the flip side of that is that it makes more complicated our current seamless trade with the EU. So that's the sort of parameter of the choice.
When people talk about a Canada-style deal, how realistic is that, and what do they mean by it?
What they mean by that is the sort of deal the EU has with Canada, which has checks on regulations at the border, but in broad terms means that you do away with taxes on trade, tariffs for goods, and has a weak set of common standards, a level playing field. Now, that's what the UK thought it had negotiated in the renegotiation with Boris Johnson. What the EU said today is that what goes for Canada can't go for the UK. It's too close, it's too big a shared economy, and that it would have to have a very strong set of level playing field, particularly on support for industry.
And for those people who talk about, I suppose, the ideal of an Australian model, what do you make of that?
Well, it sounds very sunny. It doesn't actually exist. because there is no deal between Australia and the EU, and that means serious tariffs on serious industries, car industry, food industry, that would have an impact. This is a method through which the government can sugarcoat the idea of there being no trade deal, something that they pretty much said wouldn't happen, but is possible if we reject the idea of alignment for a Canada-style deal.
Faisal, once again, thanks very much. Faisal Islam there, our economics editor.